21st of December, Rabbi Levitt, Gemora.
Okay. All right. Can't be looking
Okay, good. Glad you're able to join us. Baruch Hashem. That's really what you call V'lech Decha Baderech.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see where we're holding over here once again. If we mark the place down, we didn't mark the place down. We didn't mark it down. Let's see. Oh yes, I remember this now.
Excuse me, I'll try and join you later on. I've got a migraine coming on.
Oi,
B'Kol Shalem, Roy.
feel better, Roy. Chazak v'amat. Okay, so, and Alan called me earlier in the morning. He was out, so he not sure whether he's going to get back. So we'll be looking for Alan. As is Hashem. Okay, so we are still analyzing this brisa. Tan Rabbanan halukeach soda b'shem chavero. And we have two didim in the brisa. The first din is ein kofen oso limkor. We don't force him to sell it, to deed a sale to the lokeach. V'im amaloi almanas. But if the lokeach mentions to the seller about the condition of having to write such a document, so then kofin oso limkor. So then we do force him to write this deed to sell it. So our first pshat that we had was from Rav Sheshis, and Rav Sheshis said that the one that we're talking about, the Chavero that we're talking about, is the Reish Galusa, and he would be the one that the Brisa says that we would either not be forcing or forcing if he mentioned Almanas to deed a sale, and the Gemora didn't like that pshat so much. It didn't make too much sense. That how could the Bezdin force him? He's going to say, "What do you want from me? I'm not interested." And then the Abaye said, "No, the Chavero in the Brisa could be that the Chavero in the Brisa is the Reish Galusa, but the Chavero that he writes b'shem Chavero in the Brisa, that doesn't mean that we're gonna the Kofin ve'ein Kofin is talking about the Reish Galusa. That's talking about the seller, because he made the Almanas condition that he's making. Oh, there's a phone call over here. Who's this? Oh, this is just a second. Sorry, I'm just going to take this phone call here. Yes, Reb Chaim, a Freilich and Chanukah. How are you? This is Reuben Levitt calling. Baruch Hashem. Good. I just wanted to take the opportunity to give you a personal hazmana to the Vad of Rav Faiva Wortel tonight in Mogan Avram after Mariv. We're calling for 7:30. It's the subject is the Torah of Reb Tzvi Meyer on Hanukkah. Oh, okay. Very well. Maybe not. Okay, very good. My pleasure. Amen, amen. V'chein lamar. Okay, sorry for that interruption. Okay, so that's what Abaya says. Abaya says that the Brisa that talks about not being able to, or yes, being able to force is not referring to the Reish Galusa, but it's referring to the seller, and that makes seems to make more sense to the Gemora because he's the one who's talking over here. That the Lokech is talking directly to the seller. So if he makes a condition, so that's what we're talking about. But even that, the Gemora said, oh, that's pshita. The Gemora said that's obvious. Why would the Bryson need to tell me that case? Why would the Bryson need to tell me that case? And that was what we were we're explaining yesterday. That he couldn't be forced, the seller, to write such a deed to the buyer, especially if he didn't tell him to do so. He didn't make such a stipulation, and he didn't inform him that this is what's entailed in this sale, that he has to do so. So obviously, how could the Beis Din force him in the absence of a stipulation and a clear stipulation that's what he's required to do, that they could force him to do such a thing. So the Gemora says, no, we have some type of a way of thinking about it, that we could think that he would not be that he would that he would be required to do so. Yeah, we're sorry for the interruption, Lou. We're talking now about the part of the Gemora where the Gemora says pshita, and the Gemora said it's obvious to us the case of the Reisha. The case of the Reisha is obvious, that obviously the Beis Din cannot force the seller to write this second star. And the no, it's not obvious, and it's not obvious that he would not be required to write it, because why? Because he says, oh, you surely must have, the guy, the Lokech would be able to make a claim to the Mocher. You certainly realized what the situation was over here, and that I was doing a panchia, or panchaya, however you pronounce this word, and I was making a strengthening of my purchase of the property, and surely I didn't intend to give you all this money for the field, except on this understanding that I would get this second star written by you to be able to secure my claim to the land. And so therefore, even if I didn't mention it, mention the obligation to do so specifically or explicitly, then surely you must have been on notice, based upon the circumstances of the sale, that you would be required to do such a thing, and therefore that would be what we would think to say, that the Beis Din would be able to force him, even in that case where the seller, where the buyer made no explicit stipulation to that effect, and like that, we could explain that that's why the Brisa needs to tell us that din, that when there was no almanas, therefore in that case the seller, the Beis Din cannot force him to write this second document. Oh, and actually the Gemora said, it spoke out the Kamash Malan. Kamash Malan, that he's not required to do so. The Amar Le, because the Mocher, he'll have the following claim. Inyana Avdilach Vahade Hahu Dezavna Le Bishmei. V'yichtov Lach Shtara Achrina. Now, do we have any Rashi on that? Yeah, we have some Rashi on this in Yonah. This is if you in the Rashi's on Kuf Gimel Amid Aleph. The Rashi starts on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth narrow line from the top, where the narrow lines start.
Anina?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'd like to ask Lou to please read the Rashis, because Phil is, I don't think it would be a good idea for Phil to read the Rashis over here.
Not while he's
No,
driving. I don't
Yeah.
think
No.
that would be a good idea at all. Anina means he answered?
Oh, what does this word mean, actually? Yeah, that's a good question. What is this word? In Yonah. Abdilach Bahade Hahu Dezavdale Bishmei. Rashi also felt the need to translate for us and explain for us what that word is, what that word means over here in the context. Rashi says Tanai. He's translating for us. That's the way we should understand what that word means over here.
Tanai means what? Condition, stipulation?
Yeah.
Okay. Damar lahu lokeach the sade kamai mochar chazu.
Oh.
That he said to him.
I think this is further on, Lou. I think this is further on in the Gemora.
That's probably why I can't find it.
Yeah, this is further on. The Amar Lahu Lokeach LeSahade. No, he's not talking to the Sahade. The translation of this this Gemara over here. I'll just translate it then, as best as I can over here. The Gemara is saying that the Kamash Malan, that the Brisa is yes coming to teach us something, because we would have thought that the seller would have to write it, and Kamash Malan, we're saying that he's not obligated to do so. And this is what the Brisa is teaching us. And why is it that he's not required to do so? Because he's got an answer back for the Lokeach. The Lokeach says, obviously, you realize the situation I'm in. Obviously, you needed to write this in order to secure my purchase to the property. I don't throw out my money for nothing. And on that, the buyer is answering his claim. So he's saying in Yom Avdillah Bahade Hahu, I figured. This is what I figured, says the Mocher. You're right. I understand that you would need to have such a document written in addition to the one that I did write for you. But this second document, you know what I figured? I figured in Yonah, the matter of the Tanai, that's really the Tanai is to write this second document of sale is being sold to you, the Lokeach, and not to the Reish Galusa. Abdillah Bahadi, how does Avnat lay Bishmei? I figured that tonight I did for you with the Reish Galusa, who acquired the Sada, based upon the contract that I did write for you. That's the way it looks, at least. Be the one that would that you would have spoken to him and talk and tell him to write that document, and he would write it for you, and you'd have to clarify that with him. You'd have to ask him to do that. The block, and he would write for you. Oh, and with that, he would seller would not be able to prevail upon the best, force the buyer. This I'm sorry, keep mixing up buyer and seller. Maybe if I say it in the words of the Gemora, be easier for me. The mocher cannot be forced by the lokeach to write this second document, because he could say, I figured that the Reish Galusa was going to do that for you, because he's the one that he's the one whose name is listed as the official buyer in the document that I made for you. So I figured that you would that he would be the one that would need to write the second document, because he's the real owner. I'm the past owner. I'm not the present owner. After I write the first document, who owns this land is the Reish Galusa, and so therefore that's the way it looks like from the documents. So therefore, he would be the one that you'd have to have write this star. That you're really the one who's getting the property from him, and like that, both of the documents would make sense. The documents wouldn't contradict one another. Right? Oh, so that's a big difference, actually, right? Because if you have two documents and both of them are made out by the mocher, the seller, so what's going on over here? You got one document that says that the mocher sold the property to the Reish Galusa, and then you got a second document that says that the seller sold the property to the lokeach. So the two documents themselves, who did this mocher sell his property to? Did he sell the property to the Reish Galusa, or did he sell the property to the lokeach? So the documents are contradictory, but the way the mocher is presenting his case over here, that he doesn't have to write the document, is because he's saying, obviously, you need the Reish Galusa to write it for you, because he's the one, after I write my document to him, he's got to be the one that's got to write it for you. So now I'm starting to think that this is not a bad claim that he's saying over here. It's getting more reasonable all the time, just so that the documents don't contradict one another. Okay. All right. So with that, we will go on to the next section. Ve'im amaloi. We're continuing with the discussion of this brisa over here. We call upon Lou to continue.
Amar lo al minas. Rabbi, I think you should mute Phil. He's driving anyway.
Okay, right. Got it.
Thank you. The im amar lo al minas kofin es hamocher limkor. But if he said to him, on condition we force the seller to sell, So we're reviewing the second part of the brisa, which
Right.
says that if the buyer includes in the transaction a condition that the seller, according to Abaye, must write a second sales document, then we force the seller to do that, to write that document. Pshita. This is obvious. You made a condition that says the seller has to write a document, and therefore the seller has to write the document. What's the chiddush here?
Right.
So the Gemora is going to answer lo tzricha. It is necessary. Da'amar lehu lisahade kamai d-day. That he said to them,
Sahade, to the witnesses.
oh, to the witness, Sahade is witnesses. Oh, he
Yeah.
said to the witnesses, in the presence of him,
D-Day, right, in his presence. Who's he?
the seller.
Right.
Okay, so the Gemara is answering and saying, you're right. It's obvious unless it's the following case. The condition, because the brisa only says on condition. On condition what? It doesn't clarify who said what to who exactly, what the condition was. So now the Gemara is filling in those details and saying the buyer said to the witnesses. He said the condition to the witnesses, and the seller was present. So, and what did he say? Chazu dishtara acharina ka beina. He said, note, I want another deed, another document. Mahu desema matse amar le. You might have said that the seller can say to him, what's this word matse?
Motze, he's able to. In Aramaic, it's he's able to. It doesn't mean that people sometimes mistakenly say fine to say. That's not what it means. Motze means that he's able to.
Okay, so you might have said that the seller could say in this instance where the condition was made to the witnesses, not to the seller directly, only in the presence of the seller might make the following complaint or argument. Amina shtara me hayach deka shekalta bishmea ka'amrat. He might have said, I thought you were saying that a deed other than this one, in whose name you were buying the field. I thought you were saying that the witnesses wanted a second deed from the one, the Reish Galusa, in whose name you were buying the field. I thought you were saying to the witnesses. You were saying to the witnesses that you wanted a second deed. So so in other words, the Gemora, the seller could have said, I thought the witnesses were going to write the second deed.
No, let's translate this. Amina, I thought this is what the seller is saying, right? Now let's get the background again, right? He did the buyer is not saying this directly to the seller, but he's saying this to the witnesses in the earshot of the seller, in the presence of the seller. He directed his words to the witnesses. And he said, please know that shtara achrina kabeina. I need you should know that I need another star other than this one that you are witnessing right here. And so with that,
I have a different word than you just read. I have dika shikalta.
No, I'm going back to the going back a line to set up the case a bit.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so it says Amalahu l'sahadi kamei day. He the buyer said to the witnesses in front of the seller, Hazu d'shtar achrina kal beina. You see, you know and realize that I need to have a second star over here.
Right.
And so therefore, Mauditima, what would we think to say over here? Meaning us, the who's reading the Brisa, that Motzi Amale, that he the seller could say the following thing. He could make the following claim. Amina, I figured shtara that this star that you were talking about, that you mentioned to the witnesses that you need another star. Well, the question is, who's going to write that star? Who's going to be the one that's going to have to make that star out? So Amina, I figured that since you weren't addressing me directly, and you were really addressing the witnesses, that star meheyach. I figured that this was a star from that one. Meheyach means from that one. The shekauts bishmei. From the one that he took that was taken in his name, meaning the first star, meaning the Reish Galusa, Ka'amart. That's the one that you were talking about, that he would have to be the one to write this star that the Lokeach needs, this second star. So
the seller says to the buyer, I thought you were saying to the witnesses that the Reish Galusa needs to write another document.
Yeah, he wasn't saying to the witnesses, you need to write me another document. He was the witnesses are not in a position to write a document. They don't own the property, but all he was saying, the Lokeach, was that you realize, don't you, that I want to have a second star in this transaction, but he didn't mention who it was that he expected to write that that second star, who that person would have to do, who's going to do that. So the seller is saying over here, I figured that you had in mind that the one that was going to do that for you, that to write this star that you're telling the witnesses that you needed to have this star, is you figured that the Reish Galusa was going to do that, because you didn't talk to me about it. You talked to the witnesses about it. If you wanted me to write a star for you, you'd have to tell me that directly.
So according to the seller, what is the motivation or reason for the purchaser to state this fact about the Reish Galusa to the witnesses? Why would the seller have a svara? This is why you told the witnesses this information, which is irrelevant to them.
Well, why we would think you need to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's irrelevant to them. What are they going to do about it? They're the witnesses. They're not gonna force the Reish Galusa to do it or not do it. It's irrelevant. So doesn't the mocher need a svara to say this is why you would have said it to them?
Well, remember, this is the defense of the mocher.
Right.
This is the defense of the mocher. We're talking about the seifa, where we in fact do force the mocher to write this second star. And the Gemora initially said pshita. Obviously, he's got it because that was the Brisa said that he made an explicit stipulation in this case. He said he mentioned almanas. Now, we originally thought that he mentioned this almanas stipulation to the mocher himself. The Lokeach mentioned this stipulation to the mocher himself. That's what I thought, and I thought that's why the Gemora is saying pshita, that if that's what he mentioned to him explicitly, that he's expecting him to write a second star. So then the Gemora is asking, the Bryce is telling me something that's pshita. Obviously, he's going to be forced to write that because that's what the seller, that's what the buyer told the seller to do for him, because that's what he needed. And that the Gemora is saying that that's not the case that the Bryce is talking about. The Bryce is talking about a case where this stipulation was not made explicitly to by the buyer to the seller flat out. Rather, it was talking about a situation where he was speaking to the witnesses in front of the seller, and he mentioned to them that he needs another star. So you can ask, well, why is it that the guy would do that? I don't know, but not sure right now. But what I do know is that like this, we could see very clearly at this point why it would be that the seller could say, look, yeah, I heard that's what you said, but you weren't talking to me, and I figured that on that account that you weren't expecting that I was going to be the one that would have to write that, but that you would the one that took the property according to the first contract, he would be the one that would have to write that document. So, right. So now at this point, it seems to me that that's quite a good claim that this seller has over here. And now we're going to have to understand how it is that the Gemara is going to explain why it is Taka that he has, if that's if that in fact is the case that the Brisa is talking about, like the Gemara is saying over here, we're going to have to come up with a good reason why it is that we can force this mocher to write this document, because that's the way that the Abai is explaining what the Brisa is talking about. We're not talking about the Reish Galusa to write it. We're talking about the mocher to write it. And so now we're going to have to hear, the Gemara is now going to say Kamash Malan. What's the Kamash Malan that we say, yes, Kamash Malan, the Chiddush is going to be here, that the Bryce is telling me that this mocher is going to have to write this document to the Lokeach, this second document. Now I'm very interested to hear what the reason is, why he's got to write it, based upon the way that the Gemara has set up the facts of the case.
Kamash Malan. We are informed about this. Amar Le, that he can say to him, Lahachi tarchi va'amre lehu le'edus kamach. He can say, that is why I bothered to say this to the witnesses in your presence. Deminach hu dika be'ena. That it was from you that I wanted.
Yeah.
So I see this last point very clearly. It's very strong to me that the buyer could say this to the seller. What I don't see is the previous point of the seller. It seems so weak to me, because earlier when we were doing our analysis of this scenario, we said that the Reish Galusa it's like the President of the United States. Somebody says, I'm buying this field in the name of the President of the United States. And everybody knows, yeah, right. You know, the President of the United States is not going to have anything to do with such a minor thing. So everybody's going to assume that it's nonsense. And now we're saying that the seller is going to say, well, I assumed that you were going to go talk to the President of the United States and tell him to write this. That's ridiculous.
Well, on the other hand, why did you were asking before, why is he saying this to the witnesses? What's the purpose to say it to the witnesses?
Right.
He should really, if he wants the document to be written by the mocher, he should tell the mocher. He should call to him and say, "Excuse me, Mr. Mocher, I'm talking to you. I'm directing this statement that I'm saying right now to you. It may be that it's in front of the witnesses. That I understand why he'd want to have the witnesses there. He wants to have the witnesses there so the witnesses will back him up in case that the mocher, for some reason after the fact, doesn't feel comfortable to write this second document. He needs to have the witnesses there, but they're not the ones that he's talking to. It should have been clear to the mocher that he was being the one that was talked to when the buyer says, you know, I'm going to need to have a second star over here in order to secure my acquisition of the property.
So is this following scenario accurate? The mocher writes a star saying that this property is owned by the Reish Galusa. And now the Lokeach says, okay, now please write me the second star. And the mocher says, what second star? What are you talking about? And the Lokeach says, didn't you hear me? I said to the witnesses that there was going to have to be a second star. And the mocher says, well, I assumed that was going to be written by the Reish Galusa.
Yeah.
And so the Lokeach goes to Beis Din and says, please make him write the second star. And the Beis Din subpoenas the mocher, and the mocher comes in and says, I thought the Reish Galusa was going to write it. And the Beis Din turns to the Lokeach and says, oh, he thought the Reish Galusa was going to write it, so he's not obligated.
Well,
is that an accurate scenario?
Okay, so I mean, but what the Gemora is saying, though, in the bottom line is the Kamash Malan. The bottom line is the Kamash Malan.
What's the Havamina? What's the Havamina of the previous stage?
That we would have thought that in this case that the Gemora containing that the Bryce is talking about, that in this case where the Lokeach was not speaking directly to the mocher, that he was speaking directly to the witnesses, just in the presence of the mocher, and mentioning to them that he's going to need to have a second star written. In such a case, we might have thought to say that in this case we cannot force the mocher to write that star, because he was not the one that that obligated himself to write this star for the Lokeach. Because he was he's saying, I figured that you were figured that this star that you're talking about, that you say that you need to have written for you, star meheyach, the koshakalt, bishmei, that star would be written by the one who the first star was written for, and he took he took that document, or at least he was the one that took the property according to that first document, that he would have to be the one to write this second star to you, and that I was not obligating myself to do that. That's what the claim of that's what the Gemora is saying. We might have thought, and therefore we're saying that no, the Bryce is telling me a chiddush. The Bryce is telling me a chiddush, kamash malan, that the chiddush is that the seller can be forced, even in this situation where he was not directly spoken to, and that he's going to have to write. He's going to be the one that has to write it. Because of what the Kamash Malan says. It was precisely for this reason that I went to put myself out and spoke to the witnesses in your presence. I think the emphasis over here is on in your presence.
Right.
The minach hu de kol ba'ina. that I made a point of speaking to the witnesses in your presence, that I wanted another star, and that was therefore indicating that you would be the one that would be required to write that star, because you were the one that was aware about my need to have this star written, and therefore that's the chiddush that the Bryce is telling me, that that's enough to require this mocher to be compelled to write this second star. He will not be able to get away with saying, "Oh, I thought that you were referring to that you expected the Reish Galusa to write this star for you." So you're saying it sounds like a weak claim that on that basis that we would think that the mocher would not be able to avoid writing the star. Okay.
No. The last part is strong. It's this.
Yeah, but
it's the previous step that I find to be weak.
Take care. Be well. I don't know what tomorrow brings. Each day, it's a day by day thing with the kids in Hanukkah. I'm here by the grandkids, the kids, my son, and the grandkids now. So the other family is joining us. Take care. Chag Sameach.
Okay, Chag Sameach, Phil. Thanks for participating.
I'm basing my my analysis on the principle that I learned when I first started learning Gemora, which was that you have to be able to stop at each stage, at each step, and say, I understand this step. Now, what's the next step? So I'm just saying that I have a little difficulty stopping before the Kamash Malan and understanding the strength of the seller's argument.
Yeah. So that's what I said yesterday, I believe. The rule is when the Gemora says pshita,
right?
That and then the Gemora, right? What's pshita mean over here? The Gemora is saying, wait a minute, we have a real problem with this Bryce over here. The Bryce is telling me something that's pshita. It doesn't need to tell me that. That's a challenge to the Bryce. And the Gemora will say after that, no, lo tzricha. No, we need the Bryce to say this. It's not pshita. Now, when the Gemora says it's not pshita, it has to supply a havamina. Mahu detema, what would you have said to otherwise? So that we hear the chiddush of the Bryce. Now, this mahu detema, this havamina that we would have had, the general rule when it comes to learning Gemara is that we would like a strong havamina. That would make it more geschmack, that we have a strong havamina, and then we have a strong teretz. Oh, that's very, very, very satisfying.
Yeah.
But we find time and again in the Gemara that especially on the words of a Mishnah or a Brisa, that we're willing to answer a challenge of pshita with a very weak havamina. Like, no, it's not pshita because you would have thought blah blah blah, and we'll say blah blah blah. That's what you would have thought. That's a shvacha. That's a very weak. That's a very weak response. That's a very weak possibility. And the rule is, yeah, right. It could be that in other words, the Gemara is not saying, we don't need to think that the Gemara is saying that it's a strong havamina. The Gemara is not presenting it as a strong havamina necessarily. The Gemara can justifiably present a havamina which is not very strong. And we don't have a kasha on the Gemara because the havamina is not a strong havamina. That's the experience of Ma'uda Temas that we have. Not all of them are very strong. And so it doesn't. So I'm saying it doesn't bother me so much that this Havamina over here may not be so strong over here. That's I think what perhaps we could say over here.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
All right, thank you,
Very
Rabbi.
good. All the best.
Ken, see you
Lou.
tomorrow. Roy, if you're
Yeah.
listening, I hope you feel better.
Yeah, all the best to Roy. Feel better.
Okay, bye-bye.